Hey, Paul, can you hear me?
Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of The Bullet. My name is Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. Joining me, and believe it or not, he just joined me. We haven't even had a chance to do mic checks yet. Dan Waz. Dan, thanks for coming in today, man.
Hey, Paul, thanks for having me. I hope you can hear me and everything.
Yep, we're good.
Okay, good. Sorry about the last minute. Jeez.
Yeah, well, things happen. Little bit of news to cover today. Not near. Yesterday was a huge news day. We do have some stuff to cover today. Don't know if you've. I know we're running behind, but I don't know if you've had a chance to look over news today. We did have. The Supreme Court was going to be did release a decision today. It wasn't the one we were hoping they would release. The NYSRPA versus Bruin is still out there. It will be coming in the next 3 weeks, but they did not release the decision today. I was watching that this morning, hoping something would happen, but nothing did. First thing
I heard it was supposed to come down. I heard it was supposed to come down yesterday, but apparently not. So
yeah, no, they never say when each individual decision is going to come down. It's just that they release decisions before they recess, and the recess is coming up the end of this month. Now, the Supreme Court can do whatever they want to do. They can recess late if they want to. And they can push off decisions. I mean, theoretically, they could push off this decision until next session. I don't think they'll do that, but they could. There is no, just as there's no one you could appeal a Supreme Court decision to. There's nobody overseeing the Supreme Court saying you've got to release this decision. They do what they want to do. So. Yeah, we'll get it when we get it. I was really almost when they said they're gonna, because they've got 30 decisions that they had. Well, as of yesterday, they had 30 decisions they had to release before the end of the term, and they were going to divide that up. Dividing that up among 3 weeks. It's a whole lot of decisions. I thought with today they would get at least one or two big ones out of the way. They really didn't. The only thing they decided today was a excessive use of force case with the Border Patrol that came up. That was the only decision that came out today. So getting social media hooked up here as we get going. I want to remind everybody, if you want to get your comments in, just comment on either of the live videos on YouTube or on Facebook, and we will get your comments.
And while you're doing that,
yep.
While you're doing that, there's a bunch of anti-gun rhetoric going on right now with people like Matthew McConaughey, and there's this congressman for the 17th district in New York named Mondaire Jones, and he is a radical anti-gunner, and he's going on and on about obviously they think guns are the problem for the school killings, and no regard to the Gun-Free School Zones Act, no regard to the lack of law enforcement security that in the schools that they prevent us from putting in. No regard to any of that stuff, but it's all about all about more gun restrictions. They say we need common sense. What gun restrictions do we not have now that would solve this problem? The answer is none. We've got so many gun restrictions right now, but yet these anti-gunners still go on and on and on about guns because really they don't care. They don't care about the kids, number one. They're willing to walk on the graves of the children to push for gun legislation, more gun legislation, ultimately disarming their political opposition, which is us. And so now you have people like Matthew McConaughey getting involved. And this is a guy that people respect. We watch his movies. We like him. I liked him. I always did. I always thought he was a great actor. I always liked him.
Can't understand him, but he's a good actor. I mean, Yeah, his accent is way out there, but
right.
You see, he seems like a nice guy, but yeah.
And you hear what they have to say in real life, and it's so disappointing because they don't know what they're talking about. These guys do not know. Like Matthew McConaughey doesn't know what he's talking about when it comes to guns and gun safety and all this stuff. And they fail to look at the real causes of violence in this country. They completely either disregard it or aren't able to see it, which is really weird, and I can't understand.
Yeah. One thing I did want to bring up with you today, Governor Hochul did sign a law yesterday. I don't know when it goes into effect. I'm assuming it will be, most states, when they get new laws, they go into effect in the July area. But there's going to be new laws coming to your state of New York. And I'm trying to pull. I know for example, they're really the 18, 19 and 20-year-olds will not be able to buy semi-automatic rifles. And I was reading earlier today that it almost anybody can do a red flag law on somebody else, including medical doctors and nurses can start a red flag investigation now.
Sure.
And it just,
well, I mean, I can tell you a little bit about the red flag law. The existing was it centered around schools, and what they would do is they would give the red flag law in New York would give teachers, or let me see if I make sure I get this right, certified school officials, I think, which certified means a substitute teacher, maybe even a teacher's aide, if I'm remembering correctly. Just about anybody in school can deem your child a risk to society. You know, little Johnny gets in a fight out on the playground, so now the substitute teacher decides that he's a risk, and now the police are coming to Big Johnny's house and taking his guns. That's the sort of thing New York already had in place. New York already has duty to retreat. It's got equal force laws. It's crazy. So now they want to make it even more difficult for good people to defend themselves and make it easier to confiscate the guns of lawful citizens without due process. That's red flag law. It's without due process.
Yes.
It's the whole premise of it is without due process. So yeah, it's infuriating, and you know that's not the only thing. I think she was pushing for. I think in that package was safe storage. Safe storage. God. So in other words, my guns have to be inaccessible to me in the time of need, basically.
Yes, absolutely. Kind of scanning through there real quick.
Magazine capacity, I think.
Yeah, the magazine. Well, New York's already got a 10-round magazine capacity, although it wasn't that long ago. It was a couple of years ago that they tried getting a 7-round capacity.
It was 7 for a little while.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, and then that lots of, and the thing is, none of this would have none of this would have changed anything with the Buffalo shooting. None of this would have changed anything with the shooting in Uvalde, Texas, or any of the shootings they're up in arms and screaming about. None of these laws would have changed one darn thing.
Well, we know that. They even know that too, Paul. They know it. They use these killings as an excuse to push for legislation. We have to stop thinking that they don't understand that this stuff won't stop violence. They understand. They actually perpetuate violence. In New York State, Governor Hochul let out 191 criminals from Rikers Island. She knows exactly what she's doing. She's an evil woman with a little bit of power, and she was assigned the job. She never earned one vote. She was never voted in. Right. She's a non-elected appointed governor, and with that little bit of power, we can see how these tyrants do it. As soon as they get a little bit of leverage, they will use it against their political opposition. It's all about politics. They don't want to save lives. They don't care about stopping crime because they perpetuate it by letting criminals out of jail and disarming. They want a victim-predator society, because with a victim-predator society, the more bad guys you can put in the streets and the more good guys you can disarm, you have a society where the good people, the political opposition, are unarmed, defenseless, and controllable. Now think about this. Good people will be hiding in their homes, especially in the cities. They can't take their guns out of their houses, and criminals are running wild. When people are disarmed and helpless, they tend to gravitate toward government assistance for whatever it is, for political, or for help, for protection, for money. We have the welfare system, for anything. And that's what they're trying to create. It looks to be, as far as I'm concerned, that's what it looks like. Never ever think that these Democrats don't understand that the laws they put in place don't stop violence. They understand it very well.
Get a couple comments in here real quick. Big John 410 over on the YouTube side says Delaware is back in play again. A Senate bill outlawing firearm magazines capable of holding more than 17 rounds passed on Tuesday the 7th. That's unfortunate. I'm not familiar with Delaware politics myself, other than that's where Biden's from. So I don't know if that's got legs and can get all the way through the legislature and get the governor's signature or not. But that's not great news. And then Michael DeWine commented also on the YouTube side, Dan, I wanted to thank you and Paul for fighting the good fight.
Thank you.
So,
well, appreciate it, Michael. We're trying. We're doing everything we possibly can. I've got some stuff coming out in Amelin. I've got a video coming out here soon, probably the next few days, and it's going to really expose this guy Mondaire Jones, who's this congressman in New York, and it's going to really show you what the Democrats are trying to do and how they're perpetuating the violence and trying to disarm. So, Michael, thank you. I appreciate that very much.
Let's see here what else we got. I want to talk about this proposed bill in New Jersey. It is gun related, but it's legislators in New Jersey introduced a bill that would change the state's regulations for hunting on private land. This is Assembly Bill 3732. It calls for an expanded safety buffer that would prohibit hunters from knocking an arrow or carrying a loaded weapon within 450 feet of any occupied building in the state. It would also require private landowners in the state to notify neighboring landowners before they would be allowed to hunt on their own land. You only thought you owned your land in New Jersey. You really don't.
Jersey's horrible. I don't even like driving through Jersey because you have to jump through hoops if you're transporting a firearm through Jersey. And don't think about stopping there because you'll get arrested. There was a woman from Pennsylvania, I forget her name, but she got arrested and thrown in jail because she was driving through New Jersey with her handgun. She didn't know. She didn't know that she had a concealed carry license in Pennsylvania, but the minute you get stopped in Jersey, you're a criminal. Yeah. Horrible place. Horrible.
Yeah, New Jersey does not accept any other state's concealed carry permits.
Right. Same with New York, and I think California, and probably Chicago, and or Illinois, and
yeah,
there are a handful of them. But and let me just be clear: there are some really good people in Jersey. I actually have friends in New Jersey, and it's just unfortunate. It's really unfortunate that their government seems to even be worse than. Well, I don't know if it's worse than New York, but it's bad. It's bad.
Yeah. All right, and then I got one more I want to get to here. This one we didn't have time for yesterday. It was coming up, but there was with the shooting in Uvalde, Texas. It came out in the last couple of days. There was a gentleman that was armed that was not the killer that tried to go in and intercede, but was stopped by the police. Apparently, a funeral worker was there and had a firearm in his vehicle. And he went, got his firearm out of his vehicle, was running towards the school, and the police dead stopped him and said, "You're not going to do anything." And we're not going to do anything. Basically, is what happened. The story from Bearing His Arms, he was told to stay back and shut up.
You're talking about Uvalde, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and there were parents. The parents, and we showed video. I showed video of the parents pleading, begging the police to go in and take care of the problem. And the poor parents, I mean, you could hear you can hear them in their voice. They were just distraught. And apparently it was, I don't know, 45. I hear 45 minutes. I hear an hour. It was a long time before they actually went in and solved the problem. And it's just, and the police.
And Dan, they didn't go in and solve the problem. Federal agents who ignored orders went in. It was Border Patrol that said, screw this, we're going in with or without. Local was still under a stand down order. And federal Border Patrol agents said, to hell with you, we're going.
Well, now, correct me if I'm wrong, Paul. I think the way it worked was the police department, the police were listening to the chief's orders.
Yes.
Even though they knew that they could override the chief's orders if it was a matter of life or death. They didn't. They continued to listen to the chief, and they stood down. Now, the chief, from what I understand, wanted everybody to wait until federal came in. Does that make sense?
I think he was waiting for SWAT is what he was waiting for.
SWAT, yes. Okay. So okay. Yeah. He was waiting for SWAT to come in. But in the meantime, from what I understand, from what I was told by a police officer, is that they could have disobeyed the chief's orders in a matter of life or death, because sometimes people on the force are more inclined and more experienced than the chief. And if they need to disobey, I could be wrong about this, Paul. I'm hoping you can correct me on it if I am. But according to this person I was talking to, they said that the police could override the chief. They just chose not to.
I can't speak to that. I do not know if that's the case or not. I know.
Either way,
no locals went in. So
right.
And what it reminds me of is the Pulse Light nightclub, where the majority of the victims who died in the Pulse nightclub bled out. They weren't immediate fatalities. They bled out waiting for help. And if there's one thing that shooting after shooting after shooting has taught us, is that when you go in, if you don't wait until there's a SWAT team. The first two officers on scene team up, go in. If there aren't two, you go in alone. When they are confronted by another armed person, they either terminate themselves or are terminated by gunfire. This is not. It's not going to. It's not going to end until it is ended, and waiting for a SWAT to get set up, even 10 minutes, you can bleed out in a lot less than 10 minutes.
But what would have solved the entire problem is if that school campus had a number of armed security personnel, whether that's police, whether that's security, whether it could be private security,
could be teachers.
But you have teacher. Well, of course, I always advocate for teachers who are inclined to carry a gun that they be able to do so in school. But so you're right. That would be a perfect solution. And then the left will say, "Oh, you want everybody, you want to make the teachers carry guns." No, we don't want to make anybody do anything. We want the teachers who would otherwise be inclined to carry be able to do so. There's no problem with that. These are people who out on the street during the day or when they're not in school are carrying anyway. These are people with concealed carry. So it's not like we want to force people to carry a gun in school. That's not the case. But they'll always try to twist the narrative. But you're right. So teachers, or if there was security. Now schools, I remember my high school probably had 4, 5, maybe 6 entrances. Put a security guard at each entrance. If you're talking about, let's say, 4 security guards, okay, you can get retired policemen, you can get retired veterans. These people would probably be happy to do it, and as long as they're skilled and trained and able, I think it'd be a great idea. But the political left won't have it. They say, well, they don't want the kids to feel like they're in prison. Well, you go to a football game and you go through a metal detector. If you go to a Redskins game, you go through a metal detector. You have armed security there. Do you feel like you're in prison at an NFL game? No, it's just an excuse to keep the children vulnerable, and it's just despicable.
Yeah. All right, one more thing I want to cover, and this is still out there. There are 3 bills that I want to talk about in the U.S. Congress right now. Pelosi has not gotten them to the floor for a vote yet, but it is coming. 3 bills I want to talk about are H.R. 7910. That's the big multi-faceted one, where it is the 10-round magazine limit for the whole nation. It is the 18, 19, and 20-year-olds cannot buy firearms throughout the entire nation. It's the big one they want for every, it's the big mega anti-gun bill. And then there are 2
safe storage in there too, I think.
Well, safe storage is in there. Although, and again, I've said this yesterday, I've said this many times. The only way to enforce a safe storage law is for police to unannounced enter your home.
Right. Yeah, it's unenforceable. I know. And then you got you're probably going to talk about 2377, which is the big red flag law,
yes.
Right?
Also, 4380 is another red flag law in the House right now. So yeah, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put up again, U.S. Capitol switchboard 202-224-3121. Please, it's after 5 o'clock Eastern, so there's nobody there right now. But tomorrow and for the rest of for the rest of your life, call that number from 9 to 5 Eastern time. Call, let them know if they vote for anti-gun bills, you're going to work against getting them re-elected. And again, I don't care if you live on Long Island and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is your representative.
Right. Call anyway.
Still call and make your voice known.
Hey, Paul, if I can add to that, today is June 8th. It's 6:23 p.m. on the East Coast. From what I understand, they're going to be voting on that until 9 p.m. tonight. So a Congresswoman, Kat, what's her name? I can't think of it. I put it on my Facebook page. She said that we want to get the calls in now, like immediately, like while you're watching this broadcast.
Yes.
Be calling. The number's right there. Just grab your cell phone. It's right there next to you. Or you're watching this on your cell phone. Put us in a small window and dial that number and find your representative, leave a message, or talk to your representatives and tell them to vote no on, what was it, Paul? 79
HR 7910. Yep.
2733 and 48. What was it?
It's 2377.
Sorry. Yep.
And 4380.
Okay.
Are the 3 ones we're concerned about?
Representatives to vote no on those. My representative is Elise Stefanik. I'm in communication with her team periodically, and I often do local speaking events with her. So I made a call, but just for the formality of it all, I think Elise is gonna vote no on this. I would hope, but call your Congress people.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, if they're going to be there till 9 o'clock tonight, get on it now. 202-224-3121. When you call, even if you don't know who your representative is, all you got to know is your zip code. And they'll pull it up. They'll tell you who your representative is. They'll get you to their office.
It really is important, because if they don't hear from us, they're going to do whatever the hell they want. If they get a bunch of calls, they might second guess themselves and say, well, wait a minute, this might not be good politically for them. So just please take a minute and call. It's worth it.
Yeah. Get a couple more comments in here. Big John 410. Whoops, no, I didn't get that one didn't go. Just a second. There it goes. Big John 410 says New Jersey and Maryland are no carry states. I'm really hoping that there's a Supreme Court decision in the next couple of weeks that changes that. But yeah. And then Michael DeWine, this is kind of funny. He says, Dan and Paul, you're both most welcome. And for those of you who won't know me, I'm not the governor of Ohio. Well, if you're watching us, Michael, I would hope you have a little, because DeWine in Ohio had to be dragged into constitutional carry, kicking and screaming. He signed it, but he really did not want to.
I know Michael. I know this Michael from Facebook. So we communicate on Facebook a lot. So thanks, Michael. Thanks for all your support. I really appreciate it.
Pete over at Gun Websites, get this one up, talking about calling Congress. When you call that number, 202-224-3121, and Pete's right about this, they need to tag each call. They need to, when you call in, they mark down what the call's about and what your position is. Keep them busy. When you call, please be polite. You're gonna be much more impactful if you're professional and polite. But yeah, keep them busy.
And from what I understand, Paul, you can ask for a response, and they have to respond to you. It's in the law, where if you request a response, like let's say you leave a message or whatever, they have to address it. And a lot of times, when I call Chuck Schumer and Gillibrand, my senators, their offices will send a letter back to me in response.
Which actually, it costs them absolutely nothing. They get franking privileges, which means they can send free mail. But yeah, they will respond to you. Well, their offices will respond to you.
Yeah.
So
they work for us. And that's the thing I want to stress. These people work for us. If it wasn't for them, if it wasn't for us, rather, they wouldn't have a job. And they represent us. Don't be shy or scared to call. Remember, you're their boss. You're funding their paycheck with your taxes. Mm-hmm. So, in a nice way, like Paul would be much nicer than me, but in a nice way, let him have it. Tell him what you think and tell him what you want. But you're right, Paul. I think sometimes I would probably be a little bit too vocal. Well, you'd be much nicer.
There's honestly, when you're talking to these staffers, there's no point in the staffers generally will have the same political opinion as the people they work for. There's no point in giving them an opinion of we're just all angry old white men.
Right.
Be
right.
nice, be
You're
friendly
right.
to them.
Yeah, you're right.
Let them think, wow, that was a nice guy, and he's a gun owner. Wow,
Yeah.
Yeah. Or she's
You're absolutely right, Paul.
Yep. All right. Well, we are coming down to the bottom of the half hour. So, Dan, before we take off, dude, will you please tell everybody about the Loaded Mic radio show and how they can find you and all that good stuff, bud?
Okay, so a couple things. Loaded Mic is my web show, and it's a total blast. It's primarily a Second Amendment show, but we get into the politics of the day. You can go to loadedmic.com, mic like microphone, loadedmic.com. My co-host, John Chiara, our other co-host, Anthony Diso. Lots of laughs. My son, Danny Wass Jr., produces the show right here in New York, and it's just a lot of fun. The other thing is the book series in back of me, as you can see right over here, Good Gun, Bad Guy book series. It's a 3-book series. You can find the book series at goodgunbadguy.com or just search Good Gun, Bad Guy on Amazon. And it's now an audiobook if you're an audiobook person on Audible.
Very cool. I've got a few Audible credits I need to use up. Maybe I'll get some of those lined up. So, all right.
Well, you get to hear my lovely voice, Paul, because I read the audiobook. Yep.
Okay. When Kathy Jackson had her book, The Cornered Cat, A Woman's Guide to Concealed Carry, turned into audiobook, she decided not to read it herself. She hired an actress, a voice actress, to do it. She was telling me one time, well, at least I know there's one person that's read all of my book. So,
good point.
All right. Well, that's the time we got, Dan. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you in 2 weeks, bud.
Thanks, pal. Appreciate it.
All right, folks, and do come join me 5 p.m. Central Time tomorrow for another edition of the Daily Bullet. Thanks for watching, and podcast listeners, thanks for listening.